So, today my latest project is, and as you can see, everything from the car is taken back apart. My oh my. Fuel pump went on me. Decided to take it out for a spin the other day. Drove it about an hour, 20 minutes to work. T-tops off, system banging. Go to start the car, 6 o'clock at night, car does not work. I listen for fuel pump, I hear nothing. I check the relays for the fuel pump, I check the fuse for the fuel pump, they're good. I switched the AC compressor relay and the fuel pump relay because it's the same relay, and I know the AC compressor was working because I turned it on. Nothing. Check the straighter valve on your injector port, nothing. So, drive back home. I go get a U-Haul because I'm actually going to use my truck to go tow it. On the way back to the job, something tells me to start it up, and guess what happens? It starts up. So, I've never had a fuel pump go on any car that I've ever owned. And I've owned well over 50 cars in my life, probably more like 70. But what I did today was essentially use my Milwaukee fuel cutter tool, and as you can see, there's your fuel pump. I was actually going to tow it to Grant, which is about 7 minutes from my job, and they told me the Mitchell manual basically said it was going to be $700 for just labor. Which is understood because the rear diff has to come out and the tank's supposed to come out. Not happening. I wanted a performance fuel pump anyway, and so stock fuel pump is $54. Performance fuel pump is $230. So you're talking $700 plus the cost of a fuel pump. No, thank you. Went to start the car up at work. Guess what happened? It started up. So drove it home while it started, and I got here. I'm still confused. Maybe somebody can leave in a comment as to how a fuel pump can drive 38 miles, stop at the bakery, stop at Wawa, and stop at the bank, and then drive to my job before it decides not to work. And then when it sits overnight, it decides to start again 4 or 5 times, and I drive it home another 38 miles, park it in the driveway. Something says, let me try the other key, because at first I thought it was maybe the key situation, because you know they got a chip in it. Started right up. Came outside the next day in the morning before I went to work, started right up. Came home from work yesterday around 6 o'clock, car doesn't start. Been trying to start it all morning. So, what I just did is something that you probably seen on video before, is I cut what I call an access port. So, essentially, you know, I traced my lines, figured out exactly where the fuel pump was, the connections are. You can actually remove these grommets right here, and they'll tell you exactly like how low the fuel tank is. Now, what I did is after I traced it out, I definitely wouldn't recommend going with like a 6 to 8 inch grinder. I got this because it's light and it's 3-inch. I have seen people use Dremels, but I'm not trying to be here all day. This is very light. So what you're going to have to do is exercise a lot of patience, or you're going to cut your wires up. And you don't want to cut your wires up, because now you go from needing a fuel pump to hoses and wires. So essentially trace it out, right? Do the best you can. I'm not really worried about, you know, I want it to be straight. I'm not worried about nothing else. And because all I'm going to do is clean it up and put some black spray paint, and you're good. Now, in order for this to bend like this so it's accessible, what I decided to do was just, I went down the surface just a little bit, right? I went down just a little bit to make it easy to bend. It's almost like taking a piece of paper, putting it in a corner before you rip it. Right, I wanted to make it so that I could lift it without issue. So that's very light metal, and as you can see, everything's right there, right? So I'll be able to access the fuel pump I'll probably silicone that back in place and let it sit, you know, and call it a day. But personally, I'd rather have an access port than to be dropping a diff in a tank to replace anything. So YouTube, if you like my content, hey, subscribe. But I hope that I help someone out with this access port for Firebird F-body.